Hello everyone, welcome to Shabd Psychology Podcast. My name is Yogendra, and in this podcast we are going to talk about James Lange feedback theory. The late 19th century psychologist William James posed the following questions about emotion. Do we run from a bear because we are afraid, or are we afraid because we run? Although most of us would submit the act of running from a bear is initiated by a fearful feeling, James took the opposite stance. He believed that the act of running itself, combined with increased sweating, rapid breathing, increased heart rate, and other physiological manifestations, generated the fear. Thus, from James' perspective, the experience of an emotion depended on a prior set of changes in the body that fed back to the brain. This theory rests on two assumptions. First, that a deterministic relationship exists between bodily reactions and emotions. And second, that no emotions are felt in the absence of bodily reactions. Since those reactions are casual, James did allow for individual differences in emotion and acknowledged that situational context might alter the response profile. Nevertheless, in this view, the physiological pattern for each emotion must be reasonably consistent among individuals. The Danish psychologist Carl Lange also proposed a feedback theory of emotion in the late 19th century. Although James accommodated other bodily feedback signals such as those arising from the facial musculature, as emphasized by his contemporary, Lange postulated the cardiac function was most relevant for emotion. Not surprisingly, Lange was less concerned about explaining conscious awareness of emotion. Since, unlike James, he was a physiologist, despite two men's differences in theoretical orientation, these early feedback ideas of emotions are now referred as to the James Lange feedback theory. Although James did not postulate dedicated neural structure for emotional processing, Lange felt that the brainstem nuclei that control cardiac function were important. Lange also believed that specific feelings emerged directly from the pattern of somatic feedback to diffuse cortical sites in the brain. In any event, the James Lange theory highlighted the relationship between brain activity and physiological reactions, an idea that was further developed in the early 20th century as a wealth of information was uncovered about the functions and autonomy of the autonomic nervous system. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel and share the video. Thank you very much.